Oh, 1 second. Sorry. 1 second. Sorry.
No worries.
What's the time?
Cool. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders, where we're talking to founders about their companies, their visions for the future, and how the two collide. Today, I'm very excited to be talking to Henry Johnson, who is the creator of Rocketship Jobs. Henry, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Going well, man. Going well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I am very grateful for Twitter right now for two reasons. One, that's how we got connected. It's how I learned about what you're doing, which is cool. And I'm also, as mentioned before this, I have like currently a tweet that is like blowing up. So I'm gonna like take all my attention for the last day. I've been like on Twitter, but now I'm like focused on you and what you're building, which is exciting. For people that don't know what you're building with Rocketship Jobs, can you tell them what it is?
Yeah. So Rocketship Jobs is a jobs newsletter that highlights fast-growing, high-potential startups. The idea behind it is essentially that there's a lot of people that are looking for jobs at startups, and it's kind of hard to figure out which one is a good one to go work at, right? I mean, so many get a lot of funding, daily we see, but then you also see some of these startups that got a ton of funding that go out of business, before they're able to exit and really make the people who worked hard to, make it be something, any money, right? So instead of joining like a WeWork or something like that, I'm trying to help people find like the next Facebooks, Ubers, and things of that nature.
So we're doing actually similar-ish things. We're both like looking for awesome startups and telling them to the world, which is awesome. I wish there were like a million more people doing that. I'm curious, how do you? Well, actually, I'll start with how'd you get into this? Why'd you decide to start this? And then and then I'd love to go into your filtering in your head. If you got two startups, that have raised, $10 million, how can you decide which one is a good fit for your newsletter and just kind of and your product?
Yeah. So I got started into it. Hold on. Sorry. Let me cut off this.
Yeah, no worries.
I got started into it because I'm actually, and I'm not going to talk about the exact company, but I'm at a larger company right now that I'm doing sales for, and I'm a startup guy from the heart, right? That's kind of always been what I'm into. I worked at a startup before, was at a family business before, and now I'm at just a larger organization. And I started going through the process of trying to find a startup that made sense for maybe me to go work at. And when I'm doing that, I do a lot of research on like which ones make the most sense, which products I like, who's doing good marketing, what does their funding look like, who are the leaders, all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty time consuming, right? But I was like, hey, if I'm getting all of this research, I'm probably not the only person who cares about this. So let me see. Let's take a shot at it, right? Let's put up decided to put up a newsletter and a few Facebook groups that I'm in, and just shared it, and got like 50 people signed up in the first like few days. And I was like, all right, I'm on to something. And I just decided to kind of pursue it down that realm.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the way things should start. That's great. So what do you look for in companies? And more so specifically, like why do you pick, if you're looking at 10 companies, you only have one slot, for your newsletter. What are things that you personally care about in regards to like a company you might want to join? Also, like for this podcast, I look for like early AF, like founders, like very few employees, maybe no funding, maybe some seed funding, but very early. And I can imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a little downstream where it's a little more funding, a little more like stability. So I guess like what stage are you looking for? And also what are you looking for, within that stage?
Yeah. So I do both, but I actually like the stage that you're talking about, maybe a little bit later, right? I like them to have some kind of funding. So I won't go with somebody who's like, hasn't raised anything or pre-seed, but I have a few startups on there that are seed seed level, Series A, Series B, and then there's a few that are Series C. But I honestly typically try to avoid the Series C because in a lot of cases they've already been they're already proven in a way, right? I feel like a lot of people know about them. They've already kind of shown that they are they're going to make it. It's a matter of like how big in a way, in a lot of ways. And I think the benefit of joining some of these startups is joining before it's how big are we going to make it? It's are we going to make it? And I think that's where a lot of the most fun stuff happens, right? It's like that's where you're learning everything. That's where you're learning a lot more. That's where you're getting the most equity and everything like that. So in regards to how do I pick them, there's a lot of different things that go into it. I when I first started looking into startups, a lot of it came to who's getting the most funding, right? But then as I started looking more into it and learning more about startups, one thing I learned is, if they're getting too much funding, then maybe there's not much equity left for everybody else, right? Maybe the VCs kind of have taken it all, and you want to be a little careful about that. So I try to find a happy medium between they're getting funding and they don't have any funding, and then also pay attention to who the founders are, what they've done previously. But sometimes, they haven't done anything previously. But then there's also, the space. Are they in a good space? So, for example, I'll highlight one. I did a newsletter on this company, Deal, DEEL. And Deal is a remote, they're focused on remote work, right? So they help companies, overcome like a lot of the paperwork and all of the compliance things that have to do with hiring remote workers. And granted, right, those founders, from my memory, didn't have much under their belt in terms of doing this before. But what they did have is like really good investors behind them. And what they have is a great space because, this is before the whole coronavirus thing was happening that I found them. But you look at it now, how much bigger is even, remote work in today's world. So I think it's going to continue to grow. I think it's a good space to kind of look at.
I actually, it's so funny you mentioned Deal. Last year I was in San Francisco for an accelerator, and I met Alex, their CEO,
Nice.
in San Francisco, and man, that guy has some charisma. Like that's a great bet on your part.
I've never met him, but
well,
it looks awesome.
No, he's like that's cool that you picked. So are you? Okay, it's cool you picked Deal. Deal's awesome. I'm a huge fan of Alex. I also I was a customer for a little bit with my last company. So that's awesome. Are you open to, well, actually, no, let's do this. You probably, as someone that does this as a newsletter, and kind of like subscription type thing, you have this dynamic where you want to put out content that attracts people, but you want to make sure the best stuff is behind the subscription, right? Like the stuff that people are coming for. How do you find the balance between what to put out versus what to say, oh no, I'm not sharing that because I'm providing value and I want to capture some of that value?
Yeah. So I'm new. I just started this newsletter. I don't know if you know this part, but I started this February 18th is when I actually started this newsletter. So, 2 months ago.
It's awesome.
Right?
The thing is, I definitely want you to keep answering, but I just want to mention that with this podcast, my filter is a purely qualitative. If I just have a good feeling around a space or a person or something, I'll invite them to come on. It could be just an idea. It could be a Series A company, but this space I care a lot about because I kind of am in it as well. So that's why it doesn't matter when you started. I think it's dope. So I wanted you to come on.
My bad. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I started 2 months ago, and when I started it, I just automatically just had my initial filter was, okay, I'm going to release 4 emails a month. 1 will be free and 3 will be paid. That was kind of the idea behind it. But then as I started going, I'm like, I got to release more than, 4 emails a month. So now I'm releasing probably 8 emails a month. but I'm like, I don't want to. I need to build up my email newsletter more before I can really, really start focusing on paid. So for that reason, in all honesty, I'm not focusing on paid that much. I have a few people paying for the newsletter, and what I've been doing is more giving them access than it is necessarily gating content for them, right? So I have, I mean, it's a handful of people, right? And what I do is I know they're looking for jobs. So tell me what you want. What are you looking for from a job perspective? Where are you at? Where do you want to work? And that helps guide my research, right? So one of the newsletters may just be really, okay, I know that this person here is in New York, they're in IT, and they're looking for a job of that nature. As I'm going through, I have a list of, probably like 10 or 15 companies that I'm going to feature in the future. Can I move one of these companies up that is going to benefit this person that's paying for the newsletter? And it's going to come out as a free newsletter, so everybody's going to see it. But if this person who's paying didn't tell me to do this, earlier, they may have had to wait, another 2-3 months before I even wrote about this company. But because they're paying for this newsletter and they're interested in my content and they're focusing me, I'm going to put this content out first for them.
I can definitely relate to that. In that if someone is putting out for you, you're willing to like do things for them because they're betting on you, right? Like they're spending money and investing, which is cool. So I usually ask this question at the very end, but because I'm just really interested in what you're doing, I'm just gonna boost it a little earlier. What like do you have so you started this recently, like 2 months ago? Would love to hear. Are you still figuring out what this can be? Do you have like a pretty clear vision on where you want to go? Like, would love to like. There's so many options and directions you can go in with this, like recruiter, newsletter, media, like all these stuff. How do you think about it? The options and making sure you're thinking long term while making sure you're staying focused short term?
Yeah, so I think about it a lot. I don't have it all figured out at all. Right now, it's on Substack. I don't love Substack as a platform.
Can you what are the things you like about it and what don't you like about it? I am trying to learn. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Substack before we go on.
Yeah, so I like it because it makes it easy, right, to start a paid newsletter. I don't like it because it doesn't give you a lot of the additional features of like what a MailChimp or ConvertKit or something like that will give you, right? So, for example, I send out a newsletter every 2 or 3 times a week, and I have a pretty good open rate, probably between 45 and 60% on each newsletter, right? But if this was MailChimp, I would resend that newsletter to people that didn't open with a different headline, right? Maybe, whoever didn't open, let's make sure we send it to them again with a different headline, so that I'm making sure I'm getting more people seeing what we're putting out. They signed up, they care. Maybe they were busy when I sent it before. So I don't want them to lose out on being able to see that and being able to use some of that functionality behind that, right? So and just being able to do different types of segmentation of people is not available in Substack really at all. Other than they pay you, they don't. That's essentially all you have. So I want to maybe be able to do a little something different there. And then also in regards to the benefits of paying versus not, and this also goes into the question about long-term strategy is, I'm thinking about maybe do I one day cut off payment on Substack for a little while, continue to just grow my free newsletter, and then move on to another platform and kind of control the gating of content on my own. And in that way I can say, okay, if you're signed up for the free, you'll see the last, 3 jobs there are 3 companies that I provided. But if you signed up for the paid, you can see everything, right? Or you sign up for a 3-month subscription. I can give you a free 3-month subscription. You can see everything, but then it cuts off after 3 months and you can only see the first 3. I can get a little more creative with it. And it's going to be all in the law of like large numbers, right? So if I have right now, my goal, like I said, I started in February. So my goal by the end of April is to be at 500 subscribers. Not quite there yet, but like I'm trending really good. Like I should definitely hit that. But by the end of the year, I want to be at 10,000, right? So if I'm at 10,000 subscribers on an average of a 10% pay rate, which is like what I hear from people on Substack, they get average of 10%. I'm charging $700 right now. I mean, $7 a month right now in regards to my pay. I mean, that's not a bad business, for me.
Yeah, definitely. It goes in line with what Legion would say, like, is a passion economy. It's like taking what you're interested in and like making good money off of it. Don't need to be like a $1 billion company to like make good money for yourself.
Yeah.
So why? Not why. So you originally, it's interesting because you started off this because you were looking for a job, or potentially looking for a job in tech. And it sounds like in the process, you've come up with something that you're pretty excited about that's working. Now, do you even care about a job, or is it now, are you trying to create your own job through this newsletter? I guess has it shifted at all?
Yes. So a part of looking for a job at a startup has always been, it's just a stepping stone until I'm doing my own thing. Like I've always wanted, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Like I said, I was at a family business for a little while. That was just because I wanted to do my own thing. Family business is tough. So I wasn't the lead guy, right? I want to be the lead guy. So, yeah, everything was always just a stepping stone for something that's going to be able to do it on my own. So yeah, I've kind of lost the go for a startup, goal. And I think I could see this becoming, my full-time gig.
It's so interesting that you say that. When I first got into startups, I thought my singular path, the only thing I could do and would do, was to be a startup founder. And I did that. Like I raised some money from some good investors, and I tried it, and it didn't work out. Right. So now I'm a startup employee at a great startup. I'm a huge fan of where I work at, which is Prenda. But now I kind of see my path. Like, no, if I want to stay in tech, which I do, the only path is not just being a startup employee. A startup founder. There are like a dozen paths you can take. And it's funny, just as you get more experience, you see those paths more clearly, and it's not so binary. It's not so much startup founder or not. It's not so much this or that. It's like, no, there's a platter of things you can do. You can yeah. So anyways.
Well, I think of things. I think of things interestingly, right? I mean, like, yeah, I think one day maybe I may want to start a big startup, go for the $1 billion, club, maybe. But like, I also know that when you're starting a company like that, like, you're probably not going to be making, you're not making much money, right? In terms of, at the beginning, until that startup really starts, hitting its clip and having good revenue, you can't really pay yourself much. And honestly, any business that you start, you really can't pay yourself much at the beginning, unless it's a good, profitable business. That's what I think small businesses have figured out, that tech startups don't try to do it. So it's not that they haven't figured it out, right? Like, they're going for the gold, right? So they're just going and saying, I'm going to raise this money, and maybe I'm going to pay myself like a small salary, but I need to hire all these other people. And your investors don't want you paying yourself a high salary, right? But if I could start this, and let's say I can make myself 70, 80 grand a year, and then hire like a writer to can kind of take some of the things that I don't love doing, and maybe they're paying them a little bit a year. I can be making good money without having to do what I don't love to do, right? And then it frees my mind to think about going big, because I'll have money coming in a way that Currently I don't, right? I have a great job. I get paid well, but like, it doesn't give me the time to think bigger about, going for startups and things like that.
Yeah, I think you're thinking about everything in the right way. Like it's like you got your stable thing, you got the thing now. It's not making too much money, but at some point it'll make you money, and it'll free up your time for you to like just like take a
Exactly.
shot. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah,
And,
that's awesome.
or even right, like, so I don't know if you follow The Hustle at all, Sam
Yeah,
Parr and
I'm
those guys.
familiar for sure.
Yeah. So, but another big thing is, right, like, we live in this world where and it's not even just The Hustle. It's just everything. Like, if you have a following, it gives you a better chance, when you're when you announce something, right? Kylie Jenner's a billionaire, not because her makeup is awesome, because she has so many followers on Instagram. You know what I'm saying?
Distribution. Yep.
Exactly. So this is partly just like beginning to build up my distribution for whatever I want to do in the future. You know what I'm saying? So like, if I get 10,000, like, one thing I know about this is I will always be interested in business. That's not going to change. And everybody who follows me on this are interested in business in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether that's they want to start their own business one day, or they just like being, big players at small companies. This is my tribe, right? In a way. So regardless of what I decide to do in the future, if I can get this to 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 emails, it puts me in a good place for the future, no matter what. And that's how I look at
Yeah, we're pretty similar. It's pretty cool. I like kind of think I like this is. I don't know what the thing is next. Like I'm definitely gonna start something in the future. I don't know if it's gonna be $1 billion company, even a lifestyle. Like I'm down for whatever now. I'm not so
Yeah.
I'm not so narrow minded anymore. But like until I know what that is, like my podcast, is distribution, just like your newsletter is distribution
Yeah.
for you.
Are
It's
you
great.
collecting emails or anything of that nature?
No, I have not. It's funny you ask. I'm currently in a discovery process on like what's the next thing for the podcast. I
Mm-hmm.
have this, 150, 160, I guess recorded. I have more than that, which people will see as they come out. But I got all
Mm-hmm.
these people that I've interviewed. I got a great network. A lot of them I think I've made a good impression on, so they'd be willing to like, join and do something. And now I'm just deciding what is the next thing to kind of take another step into what I'm doing. And I don't have an answer yet, but I'm thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. 100%. Yes. The reason I asked that is, so going back to Sam at The Hustle, I think one thing about email that I love is you always own it. You know what I mean? If you stop producing this podcast tomorrow, there'll be people who will still be subscribed, for, next week, next 2 weeks, next month. But eventually, people aren't going to be looking for it anymore. You know what I mean? But if you have people's email, you always have a way to get back in touch with them. So I think about it. I think it's worth evaluating. But that said, I love podcasts. I mean, I hate writing. Although I write, right? I mean, it means to an end of the way. But I'm starting a podcast as well, because I do believe in it, and I agree with your opinion of, it's a great mechanism to network, in my opinion. I think a lot of people think of podcasts as like, I'm trying to be the next Joe Rogan, and I think you should think about it as, instead of asking somebody to go get a coffee, it's an easier way to get high leverage people. It's a way to leverage yourself and get people that may have been harder to get a coffee to actually sit down with you for 30 minutes to an hour or whatever the case, right?
That is totally correct, and it works really well. If you're listening, I actually gave someone advice yesterday similar to what you just said. It's like, start a podcast. Don't look at the metrics for a year and just interview
Mm-hmm.
cool people, because you look at the metrics and you're gonna feel down. I'm a culprit of this. Sometimes I look at metrics and I'm like, oh, I wish I had more, but like then I remember I'm not doing it for the metrics. I'm doing it for the one-on-one convos, and the metrics will take care of themselves over time. Cool. So
in a way, right? In a way, I know we're at the end of our time. In a way, so let me. This is I'm going to give you my. And I've started a few podcasts before. None of them have been that huge. but I've done decently. But I have an idea on podcast marketing, and I mean, are you follow Gary Vee at all? Probably everybody knows at least who he is.
Yeah, I'm a Gary Vee OG. I got jab, right hook right there. I guess that's not a true OG. OG is Wine Library, but yeah, I'm down to listen. Yeah.
Well, true OG is what is it? Crush it. Wine
that is
Library.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, crush it.
So I think what he does with like chopping up audio and putting them into like those little minute clips and things like that. I think those are big. And then using that, and then writing the right like copy at the top of those emails to get people to listen in, and putting that kind of content out, wherever, right? Whatever the place is right now. Right now it's LinkedIn and TikTok, right? So putting those out on your LinkedIn and your TikTok, I think are big keys. Writing little articles about like those little things that you're going to do that are clips, and putting those out on LinkedIn and TikTok, I think will help grow your podcast. Personally, I haven't done it yet, but that is a part of like like I said, my podcast is probably launching. It's April 9th right now, probably by like the 23rd or so, the end of April. Actually, I'm recording another one at 4 o'clock today. Wow, I gotta go. But that is that's a part of my thought process behind it, and I think it'll be. We'll see, But I say all that to say, because as your metrics go up, I think it helps you get higher leverage on the people that you can get to come talk to you.
Definitely. It's a good way to think about it for sure. And I agree. So for my last question of the podcast, and I have a feeling I might know one of the answers, but feel free to answer however you want, is, you got a community of people, they all love startups because they're listening to this podcast. And you're someone, that has a newsletter, has a product. So my question to you is, do you have an ask at all for the Forward Thinking Founders community? Is there anything that you need help with that anyone listening can help you out with?
Check out rocketshipjobs.com. That is my main thing. If you like it, please sign up for the newsletter. And check out Riding a Rocket, the podcast coming soon. It's on iTunes.
That's a great name. Riding a Rocket. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed the conversation. We're definitely doing similar things, similar mind frames. So looking forward to staying in touch, and best of luck, with what you're doing.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.